Hi students, now today we will continue with Newton's second law and go ahead. In Newton's second law, last time you had seen the mathematical expression and then you had seen the graphs of force versus acceleration and all those graphs. So now, today we will continue, and today if you get a question, how do you obtain Newton's first law of motion from Newton's second law of motion? Firstly, what did Newton say in his first law? It is law based on inertia. So in Newton's first law of motion, he clearly said that any body which is at rest will remain at rest, and if someone is moving, that body continues to move at the same speed and in the same direction unless an unbalanced or an external force acts on the body. So now what is Newton's second law? The mathematical expression of Newton's second law is F equal to ma. So Newton's second law gives you the mathematical expression F is equal to ma. Now if you put F is equal to 0, if the force is equal to 0, that would implies that acceleration has to be 0. Why does it imply that acceleration has to be 0? That is because mass cannot be 0. Naturally, if an object exists, it will have some mass. So if the force is 0, that means acceleration is 0. Now what is acceleration? It is rate of change of velocity, or final velocity minus initial velocity upon time. So acceleration is 0 means if a body is at rest, it remains at rest. And if the body is moving already, it will continue to move at the same speed and in the same direction because there is no acceleration. So that exactly is Newton's first law. So second law states F is equal to ma as per the mathematical expression. So if force is 0, then acceleration is 0. If no force is applied on the body, it will have no acceleration, that is acceleration will be 0, or the body will not change its speed. It will not change its speed. This proves the statement of Newton's first law. That is, a body not acted upon by any external force does not change its state of rest or of motion at a constant speed. So this is how from second law you are coming on to first law. You could be asked these questions for 2 marks. These are there, the answers are there, but you have to learn how to write the answer. Copy all this in your notes. This has to be copied in your notes. Now what remains in Newton's second law is examples based on Newton's second law. For example, if you jump on concrete, your feet will pain. But if you jump on sand, your feet will not pain. So that is why in many gardens in India, instead of carpet, they put sand, the sea sand. That is put so that when children jump from the swing and all, they don't get badly hurt. Same way, if you drop a glass on hard ground, it is going to break. It will mostly break. But if the same glass falls on a piece of carpet, on a good, nice, thick piece of carpet, sponge type carpet, then it doesn't break. Same reason, and you will even know that WWE, they play on that mat, which is sponge, sort of very cushioned surface. It is not on hard ground, it is not on concrete that they play. Similarly, when a cricketer takes a catch, he generally doesn't go up and catch it. He moves his hand back. The reason that he does it, the explanation is of all these is based on Newton's second law. From the mathematical expression F is equal to ma, we can say that F is equal to m, A is V minus U upon T. Or you can say that force is inversely proportional to the time taken for the velocity to change. So force is inversely proportional to time. So what happens is that when this fielder is catching, when he moves his hand back along with the ball, he gets some more reaction time to catch the ball. So the time taken for him to finish the catch, that increases. Because the time increases, the force decreases. time and force are inversely proportional. So that's the reason why by moving his hand a little backward along with the ball, the cricketer gets more reaction time, so lesser force will act on his hand because force is inversely proportional to time. So when these give reasons are asked, you have to write these and explain that force is inversely proportional to time and accordingly explain this. See, in physics also, keywords are important. In this answer, what is the keyword? Newton's second law. Then what is the keyword? Force is inversely proportional to time in these expressions. Then the teacher knows that you know that the reaction time is more, so less force acts. So the same give reason is used in different examples. Next I will write those examples. You can copy it down what I told you about, like the glass falling on a carpet and it doesn't break. So all those examples, we will just note down the examples. The answer will remain the same. So I am not writing the same answer again and again. I will give you the examples which can be asked in the exam. So this is the other examples which are noted down other than the one with the cricketer moving his hand backward. Based on Newton's second law, force is inversely proportional to time. Athletes land on sand or foam after taking high jump. That means they can't land on hard ground. They will break their feet. When glass falls on hard ground or hard floor, they break. But if it falls on carpet or foam or sand, it doesn't break. Since in the above example, the reaction time is more, hence, so you'll have to explain that fully. This is not the full explanation. You will have to say that when athletes jump on sand or foam, or when the glass falls on a carpet, the reaction time is more. Since the reaction time is more, the force exerted will be less. Why? The same explanation. F is ma, so F is m in bracket v minus u upon t. So force is inversely proportional to time, and therefore, since as the time reaction time increases, the force will decrease. So these are all examples based on Newton's second law. So in your answer, do mention Newton's second law. Then do mention force is inversely proportional to time. And then after that, explain. So now after Newton's second law, we will move on to Newton's third law, which is the simplest. First law was based on inertia. What was inertia? Any body which is at rest continues to remain at rest, and any body which is moving will move in the same direction and at the same speed unless acted upon by an external force. So that was Newton's first law, which was based on inertia. Newton's second law was based on momentum. First thing you learned before Newton's second law was P is equal to m into v. So Newton's second law said that the rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to the applied force. So the rate at which momentum changes is directly proportional to the applied force. So that was Newton's second law. And from Newton's second law, the mathematical expression we derived, F is equal to ma. So F is equal to ma we derived from Newton's second law. And the conditions which we learned for Newton's second law, which we said are important, is that the mass of the body should remain constant. And for the mass to remain constant, we wrote the second point that the change in velocity should be less than 10 raised to 6 meter per second, or the change in velocity has to be far less than the velocity of light. That is 3 into 10 raised to 8 meter per second. Velocity of light in air or vacuum. And now third law, which is the simplest. It is very easy to remember. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So every action has an equal and opposite reaction is Newton's third law, which is the simplest of the laws. Now, for example, when you walk, what happens? Your feet pushes the ground in the backward direction. You are pushing the ground. See, when anyone is standing for a race, a 100-meter race, they crouch and they take that position with the feet pointing in the backward direction. So the feet is exerting a force on the ground in the backward direction, and since the ground is rigid, it's hard, it exerts an equal and opposite force in the forward direction. due to which the athlete or any person who is walking can move ahead. So there are two different forces, action and reaction force. Action force is force exerted by our feet on the ground, and reaction force is the force exerted by the ground on our feet. They are both equal, they are both opposite in direction, they are equal in magnitude. So you may think, do they cancel each other? They do not cancel each other because they are not acting on the same body. So the action force in this case is acting on the ground, the reaction force is acting on the feet. So that is why the body, that is the person, moves. Now, if you consider a non-rigid surface like water, you can't stand and run on water. Reason is, water is not rigid, so when you push water, the water will move away, it will give away. So because of that, you will not get an equal and opposite force on your feet. So it becomes impossible to walk on water. Yes, I'm not talking about walking in a swimming pool where your feet is on the ground and you're pushing the ground of the swimming pool and moving ahead. That is different. I'm talking about walking on water, which is not possible. The another example of that you can take is any book or a weight lying on a table. So the weight of the book acts on the table, that is W. The weight of the book acts on the table. The table exerts an equal and opposite force in the vertically upward direction on the book. So these two forces are equal, hence the book is stationary. That is, it is not that the book falls down. Yes, if there was a huge weight kept on the table and the table couldn't bear the weight, due to which it just gives away, then there will be no reaction force, so that weight falls down. So these are simple examples. We will see more examples because in Newton's third law the definition is very easy, statement is very easy. So question asked is, in the following cases, what is the action and the reaction force? So we just have to learn that. That too is given in our Anish tutorial physics books. So we will write down a few examples of action and reaction forces. So now students, on page 68, 69 and 70 of Anish tutorial books, there are questions based on Newton's third law of motion which is given. Of course, those questions and answers are given, but still that doesn't mean that you don't have to copy all this. You have to write it, because when you write things one time, it remains in your head for a longer time. So please write all this. There is an important question, different examples. State the action and reaction forces in the following cases. I have shown 5 cases. First is, a bullet is fired from a gun. The force exerted on the bullet is the action force, and the recoil experienced by the gun is the reaction force. If it's a small gun, it moves back. When the bullet is fired out, the gun moves back slightly. So that recoil, that means the motion of the gun in the backward direction, is the reaction force. Now, you may have seen big guns which are used along the border. That is those Bofors guns and all that. In those guns, the soldier takes up a big missile and keeps it inside that. That's not a bullet, that's a bigger in size, so it's a missile. So he puts it inside that and then he moves on the side immediately before the next soldier pulls the trigger. The reason is, in that case the force is much more, so the recoil is also much more. Due to the recoil, the gun, the howitzers and the Bofors guns, they move back a larger distance due to the recoil. So the soldier, if he stands immediately behind, will get injured. So that is why one soldier loads it and moves away, and the other soldier stands on the side, pulls it, and he also runs to the side. Because those guns have a bigger recoil. That recoil of the gun is the reaction force. Hammering a nail, many of us would have tried to hit a nail. So when we hammer a nail, the hammer exerts a force on the nail. That's the action force. The nail will exert an equal and opposite force on the hammer in the opposite direction. That's the reaction force. So all you're supposed to do is write that in a full sentence and explain it properly. A moving train colliding with a stationary train. Stationary train, moving train colliding. The force exerted by the moving train on the stationary train, that's the action force. And the equal and opposite force exerted by the stationary train on the moving train is the reaction force. So you just have to explain it. It is very logical and simple. Motion of a boat in water. We are talking about not the motor propelled boats, but we are basically talking about the boat which you use an oar to row it. So motion of the boat in water. So when the boatman pushes the oar in the backward direction, the force exerted by the oar in the water in the backward direction is the action force, and the equal and opposite force exerted by the water on the oar and the boat, oar and boat both, is the reaction force. It is because of this that the boat will move in the forward direction. So force exerted by the oar on the water backwards is the action force, and the equal and opposite force exerted by water on the oar and the boat. Water is exerting force on both oar and boat in the forward direction is the reaction force. Now fifth is rocket's motion. In the motion of a rocket, you know that gases are expelled from the nozzle in the downward direction, and when the gases go, there is not much space for the gases to move out, so they exert an equal and opposite force on the rocket in the upward direction. So these two forces are equal and opposite. So that's the action and reaction force. The rocket exerts a force, capital F, that is an action force on the gases to expel them out through a nozzle downwards. These outgoing gases exert an equal and opposite reaction force R on the rocket, due to which it moves in the upward or forward direction. Instead of writing forward, you can write it as upward, because the rocket forward means upward. So in the upward direction, the rocket would move. So the rocket moves up in the upward direction. So we will continue and see few more questions which can be asked on this part of the chapter where you may be confused with the answer. So we will see those questions also based on Newton's third law. So the last theory part of Newton's third law. So in this you are asked, this is a very important question because generally students confuse this question and they write it is true. Comment on the statement, the sum of action and reaction on a body is 0. So when I push this scale, the sum of action and reaction, action force and reaction force on a body is 0. The statement is false. You may immediately be surprised, why false or equal and opposite to hai? But it is not that way. See, this action is acting on the scale and the reaction is acting on the hand. The forces are not acting on the same object. So if you had force acting on the same object, like let's say either say and either say, both sides I am pushing the marker pen. So when I am pushing the marker pen in opposite directions, then in that case, since the forces are equal and opposite, that's why they cancel off. Because the forces are equal and opposite and acting on the same body. But here the question is, the sum of action and reaction force on a body is 0. Comment on the statement. This is based on Newton's third law. The action and reaction forces are not acting on the same body. So when you keep a book on a table, the weight of the book is acting on the table. First body is table. And the table is exerting a force on the book. So they are not acting on the same body. So that is what you will have to explain. This is because even though action and reaction forces are equal in magnitude and opposite in direction, they do not act on the same body and hence they won't cancel. So same thing when you walk on the ground. When we walk, our feet exert a force on the ground in the backward direction, and the ground exerts an equal and opposite force on the feet. So the first force is on the ground and the second force is not on the ground, it is on the feet. It is acting on two different bodies. So they won't cancel. Another simple, very important simple question is you may be given such a figure. A block is suspended by a string on a rigid support. And let's assume the weight of the block is 100 Newton. 100 Newton means around 10 kg. 10 into 9.8 gives you 100. So if you assume gravity as 10 meter per second squared, so 10 into 10 will be 100. So 10 kg, if the mass of the object is 10 kg, we can say its weight is 100 Newton. See, there is a lot of difference in physics and English. In English, if anyone asks you what's your weight, you may say your weight is 50 kg. That is English. But in physics, if you say your weight is 50 kg, that is wrong. Your weight you have to specify is kgf, kilogram force. The weight is a force, so kgf, 50 kgf. And 50 kgf will be what? 50 into 9.8 or approximately 50 into 10. Weight is m into g. So that will be seen in the fourth part where Newton has stated law of gravitation. Newton didn't state three laws, he also gave a fourth law which is law of gravitation. So in this it is given that the weight of the object is 100 Newton. Weight is in Newton or kgf. Mass is kg. Is suspended by a string on a rigid support as shown. What is the direction in which the weight of the block acts? It is simple, it acts in the vertically downward direction. Name the force acting on the string. You have to specifically name what is the force acting on the string. The name is tension. You had seen contact forces, 5 types of contact forces. So the force exerted on string is called tension force. Redraw the figure and show its value and direction. So when you redraw the figure, the weight of the 100 Newton weight of block acting downward, arrowhead sign is shown, W is shown, and it is clearly written there. W stands for weight of block 100 Newton acting vertically downward. On the string, the arrow is shown. That arrow is towards the support. Always the tension acts towards the support. So the tension is acting vertically upward. So tension is equal to that weight, so it is 100 Newton. And what is T? I have written it in full form there. Tension in string. So not only write T is 100 Newton, but write in bracket what is T? Tension in the string. So such a simple question is generally asked in board papers for 2 marks, just to understand whether you have understood the basic concepts or not. Now make sure that when you draw the diagram, the string and the weight is one straight line. Not that the weight is here sideways and tension is acting on a string which is on the side. No, not that way. The weight and the tension, that is the string and the weight acting down, they should be one straight vertical line and not 2 separate lines. So that completes the theory of Newton's third law. Next we will see some sums based on F is equal to ma and on the basic formula that A is P minus U upon T. Some basic small sums which are there in our Anish tutorial textbook. So now on page 75 of your Anish book, you have the formula, the numericals questions, sums. So let's see the basic formula based on which we will start doing these numericals. First you have acceleration is v minus u upon t, where acceleration is given in meter per second squared. U stands for initial velocity. If acceleration is in meter per second squared, then u will be in meter per second. Similarly, v stands for final velocity. That also should be in meter per second. So now you can't have this given in kilometer per hour and this in meter per second squared. Everything should be in the same system or same units. Time will be in seconds. T stands for time. Then you have Newton's second law, mathematical expression, that is force is equal to m into A. F stands for the force exerted. M is mass of body and A is the acceleration. Third, you have momentum P is mass m into velocity v. Then you have change in momentum, delta P. Final momentum minus initial momentum. Final momentum is mass into final velocity, and initial momentum is mass into initial velocity. So if you take m common, you can write v minus u. So delta P, that is change in momentum, is m v minus u. Final momentum minus initial momentum is change in momentum. Then rate of change in momentum is this delta P upon T. So it will be m v minus u upon T, but you know that this v minus u upon T is what? It is acceleration. So you can write rate of change of momentum is ma, or that itself is rate of change of momentum is equal to the applied force. So if you are given that the applied force is 10 Newton, then the rate of change of momentum will also be equal to 10 kg meter per second. It would be equal, the values would be equal. So you can find one of the unknowns from that equation. We will see the sums. We will start with question number 1 on page 75, numericals. So in question number 1 on page 75, you are given a force of 5 Newton produces an acceleration of 5 centimeter per second squared. So when you have force in Newton and acceleration in centimeter per second squared, you can't just leave it same way. You have to convert the centimeter to meter. So you have to divide by 100 and make it 0.05 meter per second squared. If you do not convert, then you cannot solve the sum. Force is ma, so then you have to write the converted value. This is SI or MK system extension. This is also SI or MK system extension. So it has to be in the same system. So now 5 Newton is m into 0.05. So you will get the mass of the object as 100 kg. Nothing in the sum except for the fact that some people will forget to convert centimeter per second squared to meter per second squared. Now second question says, find the force required to produce an acceleration of 10 meter per second squared on a body of mass 8 kg. You have to find it in dyne and also in Newton. So you have again the same expression. Now here everything is in the same system. Kg for mass and meter per second squared for acceleration. So force is ma. So when you get the answer 80, this kg meter per second squared is called Newton. You had seen in measurements chapter 1. So then you have also learned that 1 Newton is 10 raised to 5 dyne. That was seen in the last lecture, in the last video. So force is 80 into 10 raised to 5. But as a rule, so that everyone writes standard answers, we do not write this number as 80. Instead, we write it as 8. So when it is written as 8, you can't ignore the 0. So this will become 10 raised to 6. See, the standard rule in chapter 1, when you write order of magnitude, this is known as the order of magnitude, then the number before the power, that has to be a number between 1 and 10. So you won't write 80 or you won't write 0.8. The reason is there has to be some standard form in which everyone writes the answer. So that is the rule. The standard form is the number before the 10 raised to whatever is a number between 1 and less than 10. It's one single integer. So the same number, someone else might have written it as 0.8 into 10 raised to 7. Someone else will write it as 80 into 10 raised to 5. Someone else will write it as 800 into 10 raised to 4. All of this in dyne. So all those answers are actually correct. 800 into 10 raised to 4 is also same thing. 80 into 10 raised to 5 is also same thing. Or instead someone writing 0.8 into 10 raised to 7 dyne is also same thing. But we do not write it this way so that everyone writes the same standard answer this number before the 10 raised to is always written as a number between 1 or greater than 1 and less than 10. So it could be 8.5. If the answer was 85 Newton, then you would have written it as 8.5 into 10 raised to 6. But it should not be a number greater than 10 or less than 1. So please make a note of this. This is important when you write the standard answers. Now the third question. How much force will be needed to increase the velocity of a body of mass 10 kg from 20 meter per second to 100 meter per second in a time of 40 seconds? So initial velocity u is the common alphabet U standard notation for initial velocity. U is 20 meter per second. Final velocity standard notation V 100 meter per second. And time is 40 seconds. So force is mass into acceleration. So acceleration will be written as V minus U upon T. So then you substitute the value 100 minus 20 upon time is 40 and mass is 10. So when you do the calculation, the force you get as 20 Newton. We'll do few more, 2 or 3 more sums, and then we will continue with the sums in the next class. Yeah, now question 4. A motorcycle of mass 100 kg is moving at 10 meter per second. Initial velocity is 10. If its engine develops an extra linear momentum of 2000 Newton second. So this is the extra momentum or change in momentum. Extra means change. Initial was probably 10,000, final became 12,000. So the extra, that is the change in momentum, 2000 is given. So the extra linear momentum is 2000 Newton second. So in that case, calculate the new velocity of the motorcycle. You are asked to find the new velocity, that is V, final velocity. So the momentum has increased because the momentum has increased by how much? 2000. So that extra momentum or change of momentum is final momentum minus initial momentum. So mv, final momentum means we will take mass into final velocity. And initial momentum means it is mass into initial velocity u, which was given. So m, take it common out, v minus u. So the change in momentum is 2000 Newton second. Instead of Newton second, momentum can also be written as kg meter per second. So 2000 is 100 mass into v minus u. So you will get 20 when you divide 2000 upon 100. That becomes 20 is v minus 10. So therefore minus 10 comes on this side, it becomes plus. So v will be 30 meter per second. So the new velocity or final velocity after that much extra momentum is gained is 30 meter per second. Now question 5, simple sum. Everything mass is given in gram. So as I told you, those are very silly mistakes which are made by quite a number of people. 10-15% of the students make those mistakes in spite of repeatedly being told that you can't leave it in gram, you have to convert it in kg when velocity is in meter per second. So your rule as per boards is that all answers should be found in MKS or SI system, both 9th and 10th standard. So if it is given in gram and all, you are supposed to convert it into kg. Unless of course the question paper itself tells you that find in dyne or find in centimeter per second squared, that way. So here you are asked to find the momentum. Momentum is nothing but m into v. So 0.25 kg into 8 meter per second, that is 2 kg meter per second. Instead of writing 2 kg meter per second, you could have written it as 2 Newton second. The same thing, momentum is Newton second or kg meter per second. The next sum, that sixth sum is again important, just like the fourth sum, sixth sum is also important. Because here the question you have to think of it. A hard ball of mass 0.25 kg travels in a straight line with a velocity of 1.5 meter per second. So hard ball of mass 0.25 kg, it is traveling with a velocity of 1.5 meter per second. Let's say that I am moving the ball towards the wall. The ball is going at 1.5 meter per second towards a wall. It hits a rigid wall and then it rebounds with the same speed and along the same path. So that means all the difference that has happened to the ball is it has changed direction. It was going at 1.5 meter per second, now it is coming back towards me at 1.5 meter per second. So 1.5 remains same. But since when it was going, the velocity was taken as plus. Now in this case I have to take the velocity as minus. Why? Because velocity takes direction into consideration, it is not speed. Speed is a scalar quantity, velocity is a vector quantity, and in this particular sum, since the speed has not changed but the direction has changed, it is very important to write it as minus 1.5 meter per second. And that happened why? Because the ball exerted a force on the wall and the wall exerted an equal and opposite force on the ball. So the direction changed. Speed didn't change as per the sum, and that collision lasted for how much? 0.01 seconds. The collision between the ball going and striking the wall, that collision, that impact, it lasted for 0.01 second. When a big force or a force acts for a very short time on any object, it is also called an impulse. Impulse is another name for a force which acts for a very short time. For example, a batsman hitting a ball or a golf player using a stick to hit a ball, golf stick to hit a ball. That sort of forces are sometimes referred to as impulse. Impulse is nothing but a force, so it will be measured in Newton and dyne. So now force is ma, m v minus u upon t. Now you have to be careful. Your final velocity is minus 1.5. Then you have the minus sign, and u was plus 1.5. So minus 1.5 plus of minus becomes minus. So overall it will become minus. So it will become minus 1.5 minus 1.5, that is minus 3. And here I can shift the two decimals of 0.01 and 0.25. So it becomes 25 upon 1 and this is minus 3. So the answer is minus 75. Now you may ask, what is the meaning of minus force? Minus is just indicating that this force has changed the direction of motion. It's a force, either you use a minus sign when the force causes retardation, like brake, when you apply brake to a cycle which is moving slows down. Either a retarding force is shown as minus, or if the force is changing the direction of motion, then in that case the minus sign is put. The answer in your textbook I have only given plus or just 75 Newton, but in your exam you write minus 75 and then write the explanation. Negative sign indicates that the force changes the direction of motion. The ball which is going straight towards the wall came back. So that is why force is negative force, since it changes the direction of motion. So I hope this is clear. Now I will give you just 4 sums for homework. Please try those sums and I will write the homework sums so you can try it. So those are very basic simple sums. If there is any doubt, you can send it in the group. Now today last week I explained to you to send one for sum of maths, that was separately, that I will ask in between so that I am sure that you are attempting the congruency sums But this you need not send it. This is very simple sums. But if you have any doubt, you can send the doubt in the group of the physics homework, which is just 4 or 5 sums. So the homework for physics, this homework would be for next Wednesday. So it is just the first 5 sums on page 78. Very simple sums. Now when you do the third homework sum, refer to the last classwork sum which I just did. That is the ball going and coming back. So the direction changes, so the sign for u and v will be different. One is plus, the other will be minus. So you do these 5 sums, and if you have any doubt when you solve these 5 sums, send me a message along with the photo of your attempt in the WhatsApp group. This all, whatever doubt is there, send in the WhatsApp group. That math sums which I asked each student to solve 1 or 2 sums and send it to me, that was separate, that was different. That I had asked individuals to solve it and send it not in the group but individually. But here if you have any doubt in this, please send it in your WhatsApp group itself. Bye, have a safe week.